What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the 3 View, our summer series where we interview all of our NA3HL coaches around the league. And first off, we are joined by Alexandria Blizzard head coach Jeff Crouse. How's your summer going?
It's going well. Trying to get back into the hockey side of things here. Got a tryout camp coming up in about 3 weeks. Obviously, everybody knows I do other stuff in the summer with my racing and stuff like that. So drive race cars, still doing all that good stuff. But
Nice.
summer, we haven't had much of summer. It's been a lot of rain and been doing a little bit of racing, some golfing. But now we're starting to get back in the swing of things with hockey.
There we go. So let's start off by looking back at last season. What do you think was your biggest takeaway from the 24-25 season?
Well, it was a little bit of a different year. We had new teams. You had the Wilderness come in, you had the Moose come in. Obviously, the Moose with being originally from Oregon, coming over, a lot of really good players. They got off to a slow start, and then obviously, with the Wilderness coming in too, with having an NA team and with the coaches they had up there, and then bringing in Ratzlaff. Obviously, they were going to be a very good team too. So that was the first thing, is that we knew the division was going to be very tough. Granite City's Granite City. We know where they're always going to be good. And our goal every year is to win the division. And I think with how hard the division was, getting second place in the division, I think was an accomplishment. Obviously, you always want to win the division, but obviously Granite City had a very good team. And, the big thing is making the playoffs in the West is harder than a lot of people think, just because I think you saw the last weekend, you had 3 teams battling for that final playoff spot in the West Division. So, overall, I think, coming away with where we ended and to get a second place finish, we were overall happy with the season.
Awesome. And like you said, the West Division is super tough. You never know who's going to win on kind of any given day. Being that you guys got so far in the playoffs, what do you think was the biggest takeaway or realization that you had from that final playoff series?
Yeah, it was an epic playoff series, is what it was. A typical West Division playoff series where you had 2 teams going at it. The Minnesota Moose, obviously Todd Sandin's been there, done that. He's won pretty much anything, coached anything, and he's won everything in this league. And it was a tough battle. It was I don't think anybody went into it thinking 1-0, then a double overtime game. I think everybody thought it was going to be tight, but 2 goaltenders. Dylan Posh and Kyle Abrahamson and myself to put it on an absolute display, and it was a really, really fun series. It was a competitive series. It was a series, I think. I thought we were playing very good hockey at the end of the year, and the Moose were too. And the way Kyle Abrahamson, my goalie, was playing, I think if we could have got past that first round, we would have definitely gave Granite City a run for their money too. When you have a goaltender that's that hot. He can carry you into the playoffs, and that's what we had a chance to do. So overall, I was happy. You don't like losing in the first round, but getting to the playoffs in the West Division, getting the 2 seed, getting into the playoffs, and having a great playoff series. It's always an accomplishment every year in the West Division.
Absolutely. And then when we look at your roster from last year, 3 out of your top 5 scorers were from Minnesota. What's it like for your program to tap into that in-state talent and bring those kids in to play for the Blizzard?
Yeah, absolutely. It's I'm born and raised. I'm from Minnesota. Played in the Minnesota State High School Hockey Tournament, and just with the location of things of where we're at, obviously kind of the furthest west team in the West Division. And that's our main focus. I really want to give back to Minnesota kids because I had coaches coach me who were Minnesota guys growing up and seeing all these Minnesota kids, and obviously Minnesota being the state of hockey. I just got this. I don't know what it is an aura, if you want to call it, that I want to help all Minnesota kids, and if they want an opportunity to play hockey, I want to help them develop, and I want to help them get on. To college hockey, to the NAHL, the USHL, whatever it may be. I want to help out Minnesota kids. And we got a very good connection with North Dakota kids as well. And then obviously into Wisconsin too. So, but, seeing local kids, Minnesota kids and then helping them out, I think that's the main goal of ours. And then obviously, being located in Minnesota, it helps out the fans like that too. Like looking at the roster and saying, "Hey, I got a kid from Sauk Center, I got a kid from Bemidji, or kid from Moorhead, or Warroad, or Roseau." The fans know the hockey towns here in Minnesota too, so that helps out too. But it's just fun knowing Minnesota, getting to and also getting to take 20 Minnesota kids and putting them all on the same team, and you hear the stories that they tell, and it's just a lot of fun having a lot of I call them local kids, the
Right.
Minnesota kids.
And do you think it creates an added benefit to knowing that these players can play in front of hometown crowds and in front of their friends and family?
Yeah, absolutely. You're just so close. I mean, we're kind of centrally located, so no matter where you're at, you're only a couple hours away, really. And like I said, you can get other fans coming in and seeing these kids, and having your fans say, "Hey, I saw that kid play on TV last year, the Minnesota State tournament. Now he's
Hmm.
playing for the Alexandria Blizzard." So you get some of that too. So that definitely helps, and it keeps the interest. And even our support in our community with our sponsorships and advertising, people like that, they say, "Oh, I see you got a bunch of Minnesota kids," and things like that too. So yeah, it's a full circle when it comes to the Minnesota kids.
That's fun too, hearing the stories from when they were playing each other back in high school. So that's fun to hear. And then when we look at the 10 age out players that you had on your roster last year, two names that probably stick out, Eli Fletcher and Ashton Collins. They both played multiple years in Alexandria. With both of them moving on to college, what kind of legacy did they leave behind in Alexandria? And how do you think they kind of shaped the locker room for the players to come into the program as well?
Yeah, for sure. It's you kind of look back. We've been doing this for so long now, and you kind of look at kids who, like you said, have that legacy. And Eli Fletcher is a great story. He's a kid from Sauk Center, Minnesota. There's probably not a lot of people out there that know where Sauk Center, Minnesota is. It's about 20 miles east of here. A small town. He was a three-sport athlete, and he just loved hockey, and he wanted to play. I tendered his brother a couple years ago, and his brother didn't end up playing for me, but I did tender him. And then Eli was coming through, and his head coach over at Prairie Center High School, I actually coached high school with here in Alexandria.
Oh, that's
So I
cool.
know Coach Werman real well over there. I've been keeping tabs on him, and just a great kid. He turned into a fan favorite. He was a crowd favorite. He was a fan favorite. Everybody knew who he was. And he's technically a local kid. He's right down the street and 20 minutes away, and everybody knew who he was. And just to see him, develop over the past 2 years as a player, I think probably turned into one of probably the most prolific goal scorer in the 3HL last year. I mean, the kid could score from anywhere, and he's competitive. He likes to compete. So it's gonna be a big loss, but glad he's moving on. He's going to a very good spot. He's got a very good place to play next year. That's going to be a lot of fun for him. And the same with Ashton Collings. He's a 3-year kid. He had quite a ride. He was part of my Fraser Cup team a couple years ago. He was part
Mhm.
of that. Then obviously, the next couple of years we had some really good teams too, and being the captain and being my first line center, playing with some very good players, and like you talked about, you have to continue the tradition here in Alexandria too, and especially with that sour taste we still got in our mouth from a couple of years ago from the Fraser Cup. Ashton was a part of that, and I thought that next year we had just as good a team, and we had smoked with injuries that year, and I
Mhm.
thought this past year too we had a great team as well, and both those two were part of that. They led the way, led the charge. It's follow the leader. They're producing on the ice, off the ice. They're both great kids. They work hard in the weight room, and they're great kids in the community. And I think you see all the stuff we do in the community too. Our team's always out doing stuff in the community, and that's a huge part of it too. So it's good to see those guys going to be moving on and be fun to watch them next year playing college hockey.
Mhm.
And like I said, they'll be back. All my guys come back and they have some fun. But those are two. I think you look at the whatever the 12, 13, 14 years we've had the 3HL team here.
Mhm.
Those two are probably going to be in the top 10 for sure, is leaving a legacy.
And when we look at players who are able to return next season, is there anybody that kind of sticks out to you that will transition more into like a leadership role or step up for you, knowing that you have so many players aging out?
Yeah, it definitely isn't. And I was fortunate enough to have a couple pretty good young players. Easton Schmit, a defenseman of mine, won a bunch of awards. All rookie team. All rookie in the West. He's a very good hockey player, and I'm going to be relying on him. He's going to definitely be a leader next year, and he's got the personality to do that,
Mhm.
to step up and being a defenseman and he's really competitive. He's a really good kid, smart kid, outgoing, fun kid. So, watching him develop from last year into this year is going to be fun to watch. And, Caleb Waller will be coming back now for his third year. And it's a
Mhm.
kid that he was still young to me, but he'll be coming back and be leading the way. He was one of my leading scorers last year. Got a taste in the NA, played a couple of games with Bismarck last year. So, he's kind of been around a little bit too. And, fortunate enough to have a very good goalie coming back in Jaden Serene,
Mhm.
who's, persevered through a lot in the last couple of years as well. And, with Kyle coming in, it was tough. He was kind of looking to be the guy. And then I brought Kyle Abrahamson back, who was part of my Fraser Cup team. And then he came back. So Jaden's a very, very good goalie. So, I kind of have, my base is a couple good forwards. Reese Hubmer's coming back as well. So I'm going to have some guys. Some of my top guys will be back, and decor, and I'm super excited to get ready with with my decor or with my goaltending. I did tender a couple goalies,
Mhm.
like I said, to help bring in, and to see if Jaden Serene can get it done for us.
And you've touched on making it to the Fraser Cup a few times here, but you've consistently led your teams to the playoffs, but you've, yet to capture the Fraser Cup title. What do you think is going to be the biggest thing this year that your team needs to accomplish to take home that Fraser Cup title?
Yeah, it's tough being it's fun playing in the West Division, but
Mhm.
it's also tough. And there's been times where we've had Rochester's been in our division, and Mason City's still here, and Wilmer and now the Wilderness. All the teams they're just good. And
Mhm.
I thought the year we went to the Fraser Cup teams, I thought Mason City was probably the third or fourth best team in the league, and we beat them in the first round. Then you get to the Fraser Cup, it's like, yeah, they'd have been able to compete here. So, and that's a good thing about it is knowing the West Division is very tough.
Mhm.
Obviously, all roads go through Granite City. It's just the way it is. We're not going to sugarcoat that. It's just, they're kind of the top dogs right now. And, I thought, even the year before, we had beat them. They were the one seed, and we had knocked them out a couple years before we went to the Fraser. And then I thought, the Fraser Cup year, obviously, I thought we got their number down the end till obviously the championship game,
Mhm.
which is obviously one of the most epic championship games in league history. And then, even the year after that, I think we had a winning record against them too. So we know we're there. We know we can compete with them. It's just going to be a matter of you got to show up every day in the West Division. If you
Right.
don't show up every day in the West Division, you're going to lose points, and all of a sudden you're going to find yourself behind the eight ball, and it's going to be really, really hard to catch up. So just make sure you're prepared, ready to go. There's 2 points on the line every single game, every single night. And you got to make sure you're willing to, sacrifice and do all that. And like we talked about earlier, those, Eli and those guys that were here last year left a lasting impression. And my
Mhm.
guys know this year, after losing that, lose at home and double overtime, the playoffs, I know they're hungry to come back. So to that part, I don't have to worry about. It's just,
Absolutely.
adding some pieces, putting some more pieces together. And like I said, and having I think the West Division is going to be even better than it was last year. Moose another year, Wilderness another year. Wilmer's always good. And then you're going to, Mason City, Alex back down there. With Mason City, who's got a lot of experience in our division too. It's just going to
Mhm.
be a lot of fun. So just make sure you're prepared, ready to go. And all the teams know it. All the teams know it's going to be a tough battle. So you don't have to worry about that part as a coach. The kids are going to show up. They're going to battle and compete.
Mhm.
And like I said, you have to try to get off a strong start and go from there.
And when we look at your history as a coach, you've been under the North American Hockey League umbrella for almost 2 decades now. What do you think has been the biggest, piece of evolution in the 3HL over the years?
Yeah, it's crazy when you think about it. We sitting, Frankie was actually a coach when I first started. He was coaching the Dayton Gems, and Denny was helping him, and all the people that we've been through, and obviously, the great relationship everybody had with Fraser. Just a great guy. And I've been through a lot of people and a few commissioners. It started back in the NA days. Obviously, I was in the NAHL for 9 years. And then obviously took over the 3HL team here in Alexandria. So I think the big thing with me is just the landscape of things.
Mhm.
When we first came in, Michigan was huge, and we bought an AWHL team. That was the year the AWHL merged with the NAHL. So Bismarck and Billings, those Montana teams were all NA teams. Helena, they were all NA teams. So we merged Fargo, Alexandria, Bismarck. Aberdeen, Minot, those teams weren't even around yet.
Hmm.
Austin, none of those teams were around yet when I first started coaching. Just seeing the different landscape and how things have moved. We got an East Division now, the 3HL, and it's the South's always kind of been solid.
Hmm.
I did coach down in Santa Fe for a year as well too, so I got to know the South a little bit and know some of those guys. John Cooper was in the league coaching, who is obviously now in the NHL, so I got to meet him. So just the people that you get to meet and the landscaping and just being a part of the league. Once you kind of get in it, you're in it. And now that we're having some success here in Alexandria, things are going well, and we still own the St. Cloud Norsemen. We also own the Wilmer Warhawks with the same owner. So I'm just
Hmm.
seeing the different landscape, the different people. Like I said, we get together with Mark and Denny and everybody. We just tell stories from when people weren't even around there. Everybody's like, "Holy smokes, that's a long time ago!" And I always give Denny a hard time. We had my very first year, we had a dispersal draft. Mark's team folded in Dayton. We had a dispersal draft Christmas Eve,
Oh.
believe it or not. So you can about imagine. I remember how I had dial-up internet. This is how old this was. And I'm sitting there on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and we're doing a dispersal draft, trying to get these players. And I'm
Hmm.
talking to Frankie and Denny because they were coaching. So it's just the stories you come up with is awesome, and just to see how the league is, developed
Hmm.
throughout the years and where it's came from to where it is now. It's absolutely crazy. So it's been fun to be part of. It's been part of my life, and hopefully we can keep her going here for a few more years.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for giving your insight today and the fun stories that you had as well. And good luck this upcoming year with the Blizzard.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Great work with you too. All the stuff you've been doing, I hear nothing but great work.
Thank you.
You don't understand how much the players love the social media and seeing themselves, just seeing a picture of themselves online,
Hmm.
let alone videos and all that good stuff. So the league does a great job with that exposure. And that's, it's another thing that I've seen through the years too, is developed through all that stuff. So thanks to the NAHL, that 3HL, all the work you guys do, it makes our jobs easier. Like I said, giving these kids the exposure that they need is awesome. So thank you guys as well.
All right. Thank you so much.